Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtotara Shatashisha Maharazavangre Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtotara Shatashisha Maharazavangre Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Seventh Canto, The Science of God, Chapter 15, Instructions for Civilized Human Beings, Text 40. Atmanam Ched Viganiyat Param Jnana Dutashayah Kim Ichan Kasya Va Hetur Deham Pushnati Lampataha. Atmanam Ched Vijaniyat Param Jnana Dutashayah Kim Ichan Kasyava Hetur Deham Pushnati Lampataha. Atmanam chid vijaniyat param jnana dutashayah kim icchan kasya hetor deham pushnati lampataha Atmanam chid vijaniyat param jnana dutashayah kim icchan kasya hetor deham pushnati lampataha Okay. Atmanam, the soul and the super soul. Chit, if. Vijaniyat, can understand. Param, who are transcendental, beyond this material world. Jnana, by knowledge. Duta ashayaha, one who has cleansed his consciousness. Kim, what? Icchan, desiring material comforts. Kasya, for whom? Va, or. Hetoho, for what reason? Deham, the material body. Pushnati, he maintains. Lampataha, being unlawfully addicted to sense gratification. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The human form of body is meant for understanding the Self and the Supreme Self, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both of whom are transcendently situated. If both of them can be understood when one is purified by advanced knowledge, for what reason and for whom does a foolish, greedy person maintain the body for sense gratification? Purport. Of course, everyone in this material world is interested in maintaining the body for sense gratification, but by cultivating knowledge, one should gradually understand that the body is not the self. Both the soul and the supersoul are transcendental to the material world. This is to be understood in the human form of life, especially when one takes sannyas. A sannyasi who has understood the self should be engaged in elevating the self and associating with the superself. Our Krishna consciousness movement is meant for elevating the living being for promotion back home, back to Godhead. Seeking such elevation is one's duty in the human form of life. Unless one performs this duty, why should one maintain the body? Especially if a sannyasi not only maintains the body by ordinary means, but does everything to maintain the body, including even eating meat and other abominable things. He must be a lampataha, a greedy person, simply engaged in sense gratification. A sannyasi must specifically remove himself from the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, which disturb one as long as one is not fully aware that the body is separate from the soul. Om Jnanatipadandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kaditiva Chalam Pangam Langate Girim Yakripatamaham Bande Shri Gurundinitaranam Vanchakabdurubhishcha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation. Again, the human form of body is meant for understanding the self and the Supreme Self, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both of whom are transcendentally situated. If both of them can be understood when one is purified by advanced knowledge, for what reason and for whom does a foolish, greedy person maintain the body for sense gratification? Somebody sent me, or somebody shared with me this comic, which is supposed to be short comic, that is supposed to be, I thought was amusing and instructive, but there was a man and a woman, older man and older woman. Of course, this is all it's a drawing, it's a comic. So older man and older woman, they're sitting there, they're on their lazy boy or whatever, their chair, and they're sitting there watching TV, and then right outside of the door, or right outside of the door or whatever, there's another man, and he's with a bunch of aliens. And the aliens look like, typical aliens that people portray aliens to be, with kind of strange features and, kind of, the bug eyes and this and that, green, and the human outside was pointing to the humans and saying, "These are humans. They're quite nice, but just don't question their, or don't touch their food, and don't question their beliefs. Otherwise they're quite nice." And we see that when people question other people's beliefs, people become very disturbed, which is an interesting phenomenon that we see throughout the world. Whether you're in India, whether you're in America, just try question someone's beliefs. It could be, people fight over it. People verbally fight, physically fight. People kill each other, unfortunately. You're saying I'm wrong. Let's fight about it. And within the last 20 years or so, it's especially it's increased more and more and more. Just don't question my beliefs, I don't question your beliefs, and we're all good. And don't touch my food, and I won't touch your food, and we're all good. But when we talk about living by truth, or establishing truth in the world, or protecting Dharma means like religious principles, there is objective truth, at least as far as the Vaishnavas are concerned. There's many different types of people. But as far as the devotees are concerned, there is objective truth. There's things that are right, there's things that are wrong, there's things that are semi-right, semi-wrong. They say a clock, right? If you look at the clock, a broken clock or stopped clock, right? It's right every, twice a day, right? A broken clock is right twice a day. So there's semi-truth and but there are certain principles that that devotees accept to be truly good, and those principles are coming from Krishna. It's not that we just like make things up. It's like we all got together and we're like, yeah, let's all decide that this is good and this is bad. But we just take it from Krishna, what Krishna says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. And the idea is that ultimately everything, or you could say religion, is coming from God. Dharmantu shakshad bhagavat pranitam. So the principles of religion come from God, as Yamaraj tells us. Right? That's Yamaraj, right? So yeah, when people start questioning people's beliefs and what to speak of, like criticizing them, oh wow, it's just really mad. There's a time where Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, because right here in the purport it's talking about how some sannyasis, means someone who's renounced, somebody who's a renounced monk, they may do all types of things. And one of the things that Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, they may preach or they may do it themselves, is he says, especially if a sannyasi not only maintains the body by ordinary means, but does everything to maintain the body, including even eating meat and other abominable things, he must be a lampata, a greedy person simply engaged in sense gratification. So people hear that and they're like, hey, who are you to say? Like, Prabhupada's writing this. And they're like, who like, what gives you the right to say that my sannyasi, my swami, my guru is not, is doing a wrong thing, Yeah, Dravida Prabhu saying Krishna gives us the right. Now, then the question is, well, why would Srila Prabhupada do such a thing? Like, why would Prabhupada quite often in his purports make these statements? That, if a sannyasi, somebody who's supposed to be living by dharma, by the principles of religion, if they eat meat, they're considered a lampata, they're considered a greedy person, just simply like enjoying their senses, like a sense gratifier, materialist. Why would Prabhupada say that? The idea is that Srila Prabhupada is trying to communicate, Srila Prabhupada is, but he's communicating truth, like what is wrong and what is right, to give us the right idea. And sometimes when trying to give us the right idea, we have to understand what is wrong, what doesn't work, what shouldn't be done. So here Srila Prabhupada is saying that a sannyasi shouldn't eat meat. There's no necessity for that. You can't say, oh, well, I need it, or whatever, this and that, or it's okay. Everything's Brahman, so like everything's spirit, including the animals. So if we kill them and eat them, it's okay. But again, if you mention these things, and what to speak of if you start using names, oh my God, people really get upset. But although Srila Prabhupada, he's mentioned a sannyasi shouldn't eat meat, he's not using a name here in the purport. He's not using any names, because I'm sure within Srila Prabhupada's mind he may have particular persons in mind. But this not using name is an important principle of trying to communicate Krishna consciousness, because if somebody uses a person's name, then the people tend to get more offended easier. So when Srila Prabhupada was speaking with people, someone would say, oh, do you know Swami so-and-so? And Prabhupada would say, oh, who is that? Can you? And then Srila Prabhupada would say, well, what is their philosophy? And then he would deconstruct for the purpose of, not for the purpose of establishing himself as superior or anything like that, but for the benefit of the person he's speaking to, the benefit for the benefit of the people who are hearing him. He would deconstruct their philosophy and then explain how Krishna consciousness has whatever is in that philosophy, but more. So yeah, he wouldn't use the name. And Satsvarup Das Goswami, he had a very interesting idea. He was going to write a book. I mean, Satsvarup Das Goswami, that's what he does. He writes books. He's probably writing a book right now. He's written so many books, but Satsvarup Das Goswami, he had this idea. He was going to write a book of all the Swamis by name. He was going to name them, all the Swamis, and then he was going to write how exactly they're all wrong. That was his idea of the book. You can imagine. Now, of course, Srila Prabhupada, I'm sure, appreciated the sentiment, but Srila Prabhupada gave him a practical instruction, and he said that, better you not do that. And then Prabhupada said, which, again, some people may not like, these statements, but anyway, Srila Prabhupada said, better you don't do this, because if you hit a skunk with your hand, your hand will have the stench, of the skunk. So he said, better not do that. That won't be very good. Of course, devotees did put together that book where Srila Prabhupada's discussing with Shama Sundar, his disciple, the different philosophies and how they relate to Krishna consciousness and all that. Hannah, she gave a presentation at her college recently about if Prabhupada met, who was it? Yeah, so if Prabhupada met these persons in the room, what would be their discussion and this and that, how it relates to Krishna consciousness. So she gave us the presentation here at the lounge, some devotees, and then she said, what do you think about that? And then we gave feedback, and then she, as far as I understood, maybe tweaked a few things, and then she presented at her college. So, and also in that presentation was some kirtan, so that was nice. And she got people to chant too, right? Got people to chant Hare Krishna. So, but yeah, Srila Prabhupada put that book together, or devotees put that book together where Srila Prabhupada was talking about different philosophers. But when these things are done, it has to be very carefully done. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you wonder, like in Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, Srila Prabhupada's guru, he had one disciple. And the disciple, he went to some village in India. Traditionally, Srila Prabhupada said 90% of India was villages. There was just, he said, Dwarka and Hastinapur, Delhi were, the big cities. Traditionally, it was all just villages, but, now more and more cities. But anyways, he went to this village, and he was given a talk, and he criticized a very popular guru. And people were just so mad at him. I mean, they were like, it was almost like a riot or something. And then Bhakti Siddhanta, the disciple, went back to meet the guru, and the other devotees, they complained to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. They said, this brahmachari, he just ruined the whole program. And he criticized this famous guru, and everybody was upset. Because you can imagine if you're at a public program and somebody says something, and just imagine we're at a public program and you say something, everybody comes angry, like visibly angry with you. And so you would imagine that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would say, yes, he was wrong, and you shouldn't have done that. The brahmachari was there with his guru, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But interesting enough, at least within this particular occasion, I can't think of any other occasions where this happened with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but he was happy with him. He said, very good. I think that's nice what you did. And again, it wasn't some out of some superiority complex, but Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was saying it's nice that you stood up for truth, that you stood up for what you accept as truth and what we accept as truth, and that you're trying to give people the right idea. So ultimately, as devotees, as people trying to give Krishna consciousness to others, if people, of course, we try to communicate in ways where people will not be unnecessarily offended, where people will, become educated and all that. But as Srila Prabhupada said, he can't change the philosophy to please the Americans, or anybody for that matter, or the Indians, or anybody. So ultimately, purity is the force, as Srila Prabhupada would say, and we're not really interested in amassing millions of followers on the basis of lying to them, for example. So yeah, we should just try to stick to the truth and give people the right idea. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Nadanam najanam nasundaram kavatam va jagadisha kame, that we're not after any of these different things such as money or followers or so on. So it's not that we change the message so we could get a lot of money, or we change the message so we could get a lot of followers. If we did change the philosophy, you may get more money, you may get more followers, but that's not the goal at all. The goal is to live by truth and try to communicate that to others. So, all right. Does anybody have any question or comment? Yes, Bajranaran Swami. Okay, she could. I'm not sure. She could.
Short. My assignment was to choose a sociological issue, and this was, pardon me, I'm getting classes mixed up. This was for my social theory class, and we could choose any social phenomenon. And then connect it to 3 social theorists that we covered in class, and immediately I wanted to talk about Krishna consciousness for also my own sake of learning more, and then also to share with others because it's helped me so much. And so I was curious as to how I would connect Durkheim, Marcuse, and Weber to Krishna consciousness, but I broke the philosophy down into the basic theology of Krishna and the soul, and then I broke it, and it was a success. It was amazing. I was very well prepared. I was really grateful to be able to do multiple practice presentations at the temple for feedback. So yeah, it was nice. Thank you.
Nice.
For you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Out there fighting for Krishna.
Any other question? Tapas has his hand like this. I'm not sure what that means. It's like this.
One thing, I was trying to keep the door closed because it's so...
Yeah, thank you. It's important.
So this idea of Prabhupada responding to Western philosophers, this was an ongoing project he had with Hayagriva and Samasundar, who had studied them in college, and they would present the philosophy to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would respond. And they were recorded, and eventually a book was made. 2 books, actually. One is called the Dialectic Spiritualism. And that was published by New Vrindavan. But we also published from the BBT. And Prabhupada talking about, Socrates and Plato and all of the famous philosophers.
Beyond illusion and doubt.
Huh?
Beyond illusion and doubt.
Beyond illusion and doubt, yeah. And I remember working on some of those myself because they were published in BTG first. And what was most amazing was his response to Marx, because Prabhupada predicted the CIA didn't know what was going to happen. The collapse of the Soviet Union, you know, which in the 70s was, no one could imagine that. But he visited there and he saw the people are unhappy. You know, they're lining up just to buy ordinary things. There's inflation. He couldn't get a taxi because they didn't. You know, he wanted to get a taxi home, and the professor Kotovsky, the famous Kotovsky, said, "No, Swami, you can't get a taxi." So he predicted that it would collapse, and he was correct.
I think he said the time frame too.
Did he?
Yeah, he said the time frame in Shamasundar's book. Prabhupada said, "Oh, this will all collapse," and Shamasundar writes that.
Yeah.
Prabhupada said that.
So Prabhupada was very eager. My point is, Prabhupada was very eager to hear the philosophies that people would follow, other philosophies, and show their shortcomings. And sometimes he would show their adequate things, like they think Carl Jung, and some of those he said, "Oh, not bad," you know, because there was some transcendental understanding in there. So
and Prabhupada would appreciate Socrates, right?
Yes, especially Socrates.
Yeah, Prabhupada would appreciate.
He said he definitely knew he wasn't a body when they said, because he was corrupting the youth. He was teaching about transmigration and so. And so they arrested him, and they were going to execute him by hemlock. So they said, "Yeah, you can take this hemlock and you'll die." He said, "I'll take it, but you'll have to catch me first," because he knew that he was ready to do that, knowing that he really wouldn't die. That he was transcendental.
Yeah, Prabhupada liked that one. Any other question or go over down. Comment.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Bhakti. Earlier you mentioned how people nowadays, if you question their belief system, they get kind of angry. So in regard to this, I was thinking about book distribution. Sometimes people have their, beliefs and ideas, and if they mention one person, and which, we don't agree with that person, how would you personally handle that?
Well, I mean, I was talking with Yamunapati Prabhu the other day on the phone, and he was telling me how he was out distributing books at the local college. And it's not that all Christians are like this, because that would be unfair to say. But, there are some. But he had this Christian guy pretty much coming up trying to break up the cell. The cell means Yamunapati was distributing a book to this girl going to school there, and she's giving a donation, all that, and then this guy comes up and he's visibly angry and this and that, and he said to her that, "Hey, I could give you this for free." It was a Bible, I could give you this for free, and this, and then she was disturbed because she thought, okay, Yamunapati is a nice guy. He is a nice nice devotee, so a very saintly person here, and he seems like he has something good to share, and I'm curious to see what he has. So she was disturbed by that, but then she left, and then the guy continued to speak with Yamunapati, and Yamunapati it was a good example. He was very humble with the person, tolerant, humble, and he just said, that, or what the Christian told him is that you're cheating people. You're giving people the wrong message, although the guy's never read it before, Bhagavad Gita. You're giving people the wrong message, and because of this, you're going to go to hell forever. And he was like really mad at. And Yamunapati just said, "Oh, excuse me, sir, but I just need to continue," and like that. So he went away. So it's good to be humble and tolerant. Radhanath Swami gives I'll tell you briefly, but he gives an interesting story of himself. In his early days as a brahmachari preaching on the East Coast from college to college, campus to campus, he went to one particular campus, and there was this fanatical Christian guy there, and he would stand up and yell into the mic and all that good stuff, and then he came up to Radhanath Swami, who was brahmachari at the time, but he came up to him and he said that you're going to hell. He told him that. And then there's a bunch of students there, kind of, because they wanted to see the debate. Yeah, he wanted to see the debate, or whatever. So then Radhanath Swami told him, he said, well, to tell you the truth, dear sir, if you and other people are like that, like you, so angry and so on, are going to be in heaven, then I rather not be there. I'm okay. And then all the students, clap. Oh, good one. So then some time passes, and Radhanath Swami, he was there. He had a college program where he would cook, prasadam. He would teach people, and he would cook prasadam, and then this person showed up there. And he's like, oh God, like, what am I going to do? This person's here. And the person was like complaining to the authorities and trying to get him shut down and all that stuff. But then eventually, the guy kept on coming. He was kind of like curious. And then, he started seeing how they were cooking the prasadam, Radhanath Swami. Then he started taking halava. And, in halava, it's especially... we serve the deities here halava every morning, and especially if it like halava's like hot halava. There's a big difference actually between hot halava and cold halava. It's like kind of day and night. But he's getting this hot halava, farina and butter and sugar mixed up with different fruits, and he really liked it. So he was gradually kind of changing. He was changing. And then he went up to Radhanath and he said, "Oh, can I have that recipe?" And then he said, "I'd like to make that for my Christian group." so then he got the recipe and he's making it for his Christian group, the halava. So then towards the conclusion of this whole particular story, they became friends, and to a degree, whatever, they became friends, and they said, to tell you the truth, now I wouldn't mind, being in heaven with you. After all, we could be there together, happily. So yeah, you do have transformations like that, but so it depends on the circumstances. Sometimes we avoid them because they're very envious. We just avoid them. Sometimes we feed them prasadam. Sometimes, we're humble and tolerant. And sometimes maybe because there's a crowd, we may be very strong and try to communicate certain things to them. Not necessarily for their benefit, because maybe they won't understand, but for the benefit of people who are around, So there's different things. The main thing is not to waste time with people who aren't open. That's a very good lesson for book distributors. Do not waste time with people who are not open. Just keep on moving. Yes, Aviral? What does Aviral mean?
I've asked him that.
Yeah, it means something which is continuous. It's like they say Aviral Ganga in Varanasi.
We say Aviral Bhakti. Okay.
Yes, same.
Yes.
So, my question was the heaven that the Christians say, is it same as the spiritual world, or is it same as the Swargaloka that we consider?
When you talk about heaven and start asking people about heaven, you get so many different conceptions, like Bachchan Swami, you mentioned how there's some guy, and when I get to heaven, I'm going to see those, what is it?
When I get to heaven, you're going to see them pearly gates. When I get to heaven, you're going to eat them chops and steaks.
Yeah, people have different ideas. Is that what goes on in heaven? Some people, or that. Anyways, I mentioned it before. Devamrita Swami mentioned it, and it's a good point. And Yeah, that's why I'm saying I think it's a really good point. But he said that there's a very famous Christian preacher in America, and like super famous, and he said that, he was asked the question, what will you do when you get to the kingdom of God? And he said, well, what I'll do is I will serve God for 100 years, and then after that, I'll enjoy. It's a very interesting concept of heaven. We wouldn't agree with that concept, because there shouldn't be a difference between enjoying and serving Krishna. That is the enjoyment, the real enjoyment, the spiritual happiness. So yeah, it's it depends. There's so many different types of heavens people have in their mind. But as far as we're concerned, and as far as the Srimad Bhagavatam is concerned, it gives a very detailed description of God, of the spiritual world, and of the activities of the spiritual world. Yeah, and detailed about the heavenly planets. So maybe you could say a lot of people's conceptions of heaven may be similar to the conceptions of the heavenly planets in the material universe. But as it's said in the Bhagavad Gita, right, Krishna says, you go up there, you enjoy for some time, and then you come back down to this world, birth and death. So, any last question or any online? Vijay, Krishna's out distributing books in Spain. He probably is. He distributes books. All right. So tomorrow's verse is 41. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.